Do not buy college textbooks.
Anna's Archive is not down.
But the first Sci-Hub alternative is Anna's Archive.
I found a website called Anna's Archive where you can download free books.
In November 2022, the US government seized around 200 domain names in a single day. The site they run had over 11 million books, one of the largest, if not the largest, piracy operations in history. Headlines called it the end of an era.
The FBI seized several web domains of the most popular and largest free ebook resource Z Library on Friday, November 4.
Within days, something else had taken its place. Something that's now survived a $322 million court judgment and is still running today. To understand why it can be shut down, you must understand why it existed in the first place. Z Library launched in 2009 as an offshoot of an even older shadow called Library Genesis. For over a decade, it grew quietly. A resource students and academics passed around as a sure secret. Then, in 2022, it went mainstream. A wave of TikTok videos under the hashtag BookTalks started showing people exactly how to download bestsellers for free, including brand new releases. The hashtag hit millions of views. What had been a niche tool for a decade became common knowledge for academics and students all over the world. That kind of visibility doesn't stay unnoticed. Publishers and the Authors Guild pushed hard for federal action, and in November 2022, it came. The Department of Justice charged 2 Russian nationals with criminal copyright infringement, wire fraud, and money laundering, seizing around 200 domains tied to the site. For a moment, it looked like the largest piracy network in the world had just been erased. But first, I want to talk about Kindle. Here's the thing nobody tells you when you hit buy on a Kindle book. You bought a license to read it. One, Amazon can revoke whenever it wants. But the short version is that book is not yours. It was never yours. And for years there was a workaround. You could download your Kindle book as a file, strip out the copy protection, and keep a permanent copy for yourself on your own hard drive. Well, on February 26th, 2025, Amazon quietly pulled the plug. The download and transfer via USB feature disappeared from the settings menu. No press release, no announcement, nothing. It didn't even ask if you were okay with it. So all the books you had in your Kindle were tied to it forever. And that single update probably did something Amazon didn't expect. It created a whole new community of people jailbreaking their Kindle. Once the official download method disappeared, tech creators like Dammit Jeff, for example, started publishing full walkthroughs on how to jailbreak your Kindle. What used to be a niche hobby for tech people now turned into something regular readers were suddenly able to do. Here's the part that says everything about this situation. Jailbreaking your own Kindle to access for books you already paid for isn't stealing. It lives in a legal gray area. But think about how strange that sentence is. People are hacking their own hardware just to keep something they already bought. So today, every book you ever bought on Kindle lives entirely inside Amazon's walls, on Amazon's terms. Get your account flagged for any reason, even a payment dispute that isn't your fault, and every book you own can vanish in an instant. And here's the part that really gets people. Buy a Kindle tablet at full price, no discount, and you're still getting ads on the lock screen. You bought the hardware, but you are still the product. So when people call piracy stealing, it's worth asking a harder question. Stealing from who, exactly? When the thing you paid for wasn't really yours to begin with. This tension plays out completely different depending on what kind of book you are talking about. And it expands exactly who Z Library and later its replacement was actually serving. First, let's start with college textbooks, the single biggest piracy category in the entire book world, by a mile. One textbook can run you $150 to $300. That's for one class. A full-time student juggling around 5 classes could be staring down over $1,000 in required reading alone. Publishers release new editions every single year with barely any content changes, just enough to shuffle page numbers so your old copies users for homework, completely killing the second-hand market. And that's not an accident. That's a business model built to kill the used book market. So of course, college students pirate more than any other reading group in the country. Then there's fiction, something like Harry Potter, mainstream mass market books. Well, piracy exists here too, but at a noticeably lower rate than in Latin America or Southern Europe, mostly because Americans have cheap legal alternatives like Kindle Unlimited or Audible sitting right there. And then there's a legal option most people forget: public libraries. Apps like Libby and Hoopla let anyone with a library card borrow ebooks for free, but libraries only license a limited amount of copies, digital copies. So the new release you want has a 2-month waitlist, and that niche textbook probably isn't there at all. So people are really stuck choosing an overpriced textbook, a library waitlist, or a download that takes 30 seconds. That gap is exactly what Z Library filled for over a decade, and exactly what didn't disappear the day the FBI ceased its operations. And days after the arrests, an anonymous project that had spent months quietly mirroring Z Library's entire library launched under a new name: Anna's Archive. Its stated goal was blunt: catalog every book in existence and track humanity's progress toward making all of it accessible. And this is where the story stops being about one website being replaced by another one and starts being about why this replacement has been so much harder to kill. Unlike the library, Anna's Archive doesn't host a single pirated file in it. It's a search index, a giant pointer system that directs you to files scattered across LibGen or Sci-Hub and dozens of other libraries around the world. Sees one source, and the index just points towards another one. There's no central server full of pirated files just available to be raided, because the illegal files were never actually on Anna's Archive site to begin with. That design has now been tested against real legal firepower. In April 2026, a US court issued a default judgment against Anna's Archive for $322 million, ordering domain registers and service providers everywhere to cut it off entirely. As of this video, the site is still online. You can seize a domain. You can sue an operator who never shows up to court. What you can't do is seize an index with no point of failure, spread around servers and mirrors in countries that do not answer to a US court order. And that's the actual answer to the question in the title. It's not that no one has tried to shut it down. It's that the thing they're trying to shut down was built from day one to survive exactly this. But here's the part that most people don't expect. Piracy, while still very much a copyright violation that costs authors and publishers real income, has done some things almost nobody intended. Take science, for example. Sci-Hub gave researchers and doctors in countries without million-dollar university budgets access to studies locked between $30 or $40 paywall per single article. Illegally, it puts them on the same footing as anyone at Harvard or MIT. And education tells a similar story. Textbooks costing hundreds of dollars stopped being the reason someone dropped out of a degree they were otherwise passing. And it really goes way beyond books. All video games, films that never got a proper release, regional music that never made it to streaming, a lot of that would have simply disappeared if piracy communities hadn't preserved it and shared it. The sheer embarrassment of Sci-Hub working as well as it did even helped force academic publishing to question its own monopoly, accelerating the shift toward open access, a legal model where publicly funded research increasingly has to be free for anyone to read. So how does a piracy site survive an FBI raid, a criminal indictment, and a $322 million court judgment and still be running today? Well, because it was never really one website. It was an index, a mirror, an idea that gets rebuilt faster than anyone can tear it down. And governments keep trying to delete the site. They've never once tried to fix the prices, the licensing restrictions, or the year-long waitlists that made people want it in the first place. Streaming piracy is exploding right now for a completely different reason, and that's next. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.